Good evening. I'm just going to let some time for folks to enter the meeting. So welcome. And in the meantime, please use the interpretation tool. If you go down to the bottom of the screen, this is a simultaneous interpreted event in English and Spanish. If you go bottom of the Zoom screen to the menu bar and press on the globe icon, you can select the language in which you prefer to listen to this information. You need to select either English or Spanish. Make sure to select one. Again, welcome to the presentation tonight on the debris removal program. We're just allowing some time for folks to enter the webinar. Okay, well, we've hit the magic 400 mark. I think we should begin. Again, this is we're fortunate to have American Sign Language interpretation tonight. I want to thank the interpreters, as well as simultaneous English-Spanish interpretation. Please go down to the bottom of the Zoom screen, click on the globe icon and select English or Spanish for the language you prefer. You must select either one. So welcome. My name is Gary Sanfason. I'm the Fire Recovery Manager for Boulder County. Thank you for coming tonight. We are really eager and happy to finally be able to present the debris removal program. We also learned some really good news today that the judge in the case dismissed the lawsuit, the unnecessary lawsuit that we were having to address. So that's excellent news. I'm really happy to share that we have a deep bench, a diversity of presenters today from Boulder County, Town of Superior, City of Louisville, the Contractor DRC, and our consultant who's leading the operations, Anders Environmental. This has been a huge team effort. I can't say enough for all the incredible collaboration and partnering, not only with our local partners, but with the state and with FEMA to bring this project to fruition. So we're really excited to be able to present to you today. And I'm going to just remind presenters to speak slowly so our interpreters can keep up with us and you can digest all the information we have for you. Before we jump into the program, the debris removal program, I just want to take this opportunity to address one issue that I've been hearing a lot about, that I know is causing a lot of anxiety and stress, and that's around additional living expenses in your insurance policies, ALE, as you know. I want to just clarify two pieces of information, some misinformation out there. First, there is no dollar maximum amount in your additional living expenses. If your insurance company, your adjuster is telling you that, please contact the Division of Insurance to make a complaint, because that is not allowed in the state of Colorado. Second, I know many of you have 12 months of additional living expenses, and I imagine that's very stressful to feel that pressure to have to get all these things accomplished to get back into your a new home. Well, I want to just tell you tonight that I've been meeting with the head of the Division of Insurance, Michael Conway, and although he cannot require insurance companies to extend your additional living expenses beyond 12 months, he has spoken to every insurer, and he feels very confident that they will voluntarily, at the end of the year, extend your additional living expenses if you are showing, good progress toward rebuilding. So please don't let that have you lose sleep. This is something we feel very confident the insurance companies will do the right thing. Another example of that is there's currently a bill in the legislature to require insurance companies to provide a minimum of 24 months of additional living expenses, with 2 6-month extensions up to 36 months. In the testimony for that bill, the insurance industry has not opposed that requirement. So we feel very confident that the insurance industry understands that it takes significantly longer than 12 months to rebuild and to recover. So please, if you're feeling that pressure or getting that from your insurance company, please let us know. Let myself know, let the Division of Insurance know. We don't want that to weigh on you unnecessarily. So with that, I want to begin the debris removal program presentation. We're going to have presentations from the county, the cities, town, and the contractor. And so at the end of the presentation, we will open up the chat to take your questions. So please, right now, we want you to focus on the information in the presentation. Hold your questions till after the presentation. So with that, I'm going to introduce Jeff Maxwell, the Director of Public Works for Boulder County. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary, and my thanks to everyone on the call for joining us tonight for this important town hall meeting. As Gary said, I am Jeff Maxwell, Director of Public Works for Boulder County, and I will be introducing you to our team. The Boulder County Debris Removal Program is a collaborative effort with the Town of Superior, City of Louisville, and Boulder County, as well as our debris contractor, DRC Emergency Services, and our operations management team of Anders Environmental. We're going to take a few minutes to introduce you to the team and provide detailed information of what you can expect from the debris removal program. We will then devote the rest of the meeting to answering questions you may have about the program. Joining us tonight from the Town of Superior is Matt Magley, Town Manager, and Allison James, Disaster Preparedness and Recovery Manager. Good evening, Matt and Allison. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, evening, Jeff. Thanks. Want to thank you for hosting the meeting tonight. I know that a lot of people have been waiting for this. We also have town board members that are listening to the meeting, as well as other staff. I want to thank residents for their patience as we worked through the process to get to this point. It's taken a lot of time, a lot of work, and a lot of effort from a lot of people. And like Gary said, I want to thank everyone who's been working so hard to get to this point. We're really excited to get started with the large-scale debris removal work and are committed to getting it completed as quickly and safe as we can. Looking forward to the discussion and answering questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. Joining us from the City of Louisville is Jeff Durbin, City Manager, and Cameron Folks, Assistant City Engineer. Good evening, Jeff and Cameron.
Thank you, Jeff. Echo the same thoughts that everyone has said so far. And I can't tell you how pleased I am to be at this meeting tonight. We've been looking forward to this for a long time, working really hard to get to this point. Want to especially thank, as Gary did, the state and federal entities who have helped with funding for this program. Our congressional delegation has helped a lot. FEMA is doing a 90% reimbursement on this program, which is not typical. And the state is covering 5% of that of the costs. And that has enabled the cities and the county and town to be able to, I believe, fund more of these ineligible, if you will, costs, so that we can get all of this debris taken care of quickly, expeditiously, because this is a really important milestone for this community. So I too can't wait to get this work started and done. So thank you, everyone, and I look forward to hearing from the community. And thanks, Cameron, for being here too.
Thank you, Jeff. We're also joined by our operations manager, Luke Matsky with Anders Environmental. And Luke has prepared a brief introductory presentation, so I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Luke.
Hi, everyone. My name is Luke Matsky, and I will be the operations manager for the Marshall Fire Debris Removal Program. Next slide. I work for Anders Environmental. We're a construction management business based out of Boulder. Next slide. Anders Environmental specializes in the management of environmental remediation projects. Now, I know when most people think of environmental projects, they think of a bunch of guys in lab coats running around, slowing everything down, when the reality of that situation is that environmental projects are based around the integration of scientists into a construction project to accomplish complex goals while maintaining that efficiency. And that's where I fit in. I'm kind of the liaison between the regulators, the scientists, and the construction workers. Next slide. Here's a nice picture from Paradise. Our crews were demolishing a machine shop that was unfortunately lost, but the owner of this machine shop was so grateful that it was taken down and he could rebuild his business. Next slide. A little bit about my experience. I have 15 years of experience working on large-scale environmental remediation projects and disaster recovery projects. Through those projects, as you may know, I've become adept at working with the multitude of regulators and interested parties to ensure that everything runs smoothly, which is no easy task. And with the team that Boulder County has assembled for this one, it makes it quite a bit easier. I also have extensive experience managing multiple disciplines on large construction projects to create a cohesive team. Next slide, please. My first project was Hurricane Katrina, which was a very large project, if people remember that one. I also was fortunate enough to work for Boulder County on the past two disasters, the 4 Mile Fire and then the subsequent flood in 2013. I was also the operations manager for one of the prime contractors during the campfire cleanup in Paradise, California. Our team removed debris from 4,500 properties and completed this work before any of the other contractors. So I have an in-depth understanding of how to run an efficient debris removal operation. I also worked on the Carr Fire in Redding, California, and provided help when Hurricane Florence hit the East Coast. Next slide. Lastly, I'd like to thank Boulder County for bringing me on board. I live in Boulder County. I just evacuated for the Carr Fire, so, forgive me, my office was disassembled, reassembled, so I can kind of understand some people's pain when it comes to all of the evacuations and the chaos that it causes to all of our lives. I live in Boulder County. My kids swim against Louisville kids. I shop at Costco every week, and I have a vested interest to get this project done as quickly as humanly possible. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Luke. We appreciate that. We're also joined by our debris contractor, Mark Stafford with DRC Emergency Services. Mark has also prepared a brief introductory presentation, and I will go ahead and turn it over to you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We're very honored and privileged to be the county's and the two municipalities' debris contractor. We are very sensitive to the trials and tribulations you're going through now and have gone through. We've done this for 33 years, but you never get over the impact of a devastated community such as the ones we are looking at today. So hopefully we can impart some or instill some confidence in our ability to perform this mission. We look forward to working with the communities and with Luke and his team to efficiently and effectively get this project done. Next slide, please. Oh, that was not my slide.
Oh, it looks like we might have the DRC deck slides out of order. Maybe we could take a look at that while we're going through another phase of the debris removal program. Natalie, if you could maybe look at that, we'll go ahead and move on to Cody Lilstrom's component. Maybe we can come back to Mark's component. So sorry about that, Mark. We'll try to get your slides on deck as soon as possible. All right, finally, we are joined tonight by Cody Lilstrom with Boulder County's Resource Conservation Division. Cody's going to be presenting detailed information about the debris removal program and what you can expect during the process. Good evening, Cody.
Thanks, Jeff, and hello to everyone on this webinar. Thank you for having me and allowing me to speak. I'm Cody Lilstrom with Boulder County Public Works Resource Conservation Division. Our division, when disaster strikes, is mobilized under Emergency Support Function 20, which is debris management. So we have been on the ground from day one, working side by side with the assessor's office and their damage assessment teams to assess the debris and get a handle on how much is out there and how we can best clean it up and get moving forward. And we do understand that we want to get this done as efficiently and effectively as possible as well. So we're excited for the team that is here, that is working on it, and just really looking forward to getting this work on the ground or getting it moving and then getting going. So what you'll see here, and actually I'd like to go through a little bit of what I'm going to be presenting here. First, I'm going to start with what you can expect from debris removal, the sequence of events, next steps in the process as we're sitting right now, the schedule of events, and then the costs associated with this project. So this first slide here is kind of a before and after of one of the sites. Actually, I believe this is from Superior. I can't remember exactly where this picture was taken, but the picture on the left is before, and this is obviously with all of the debris from the fire just sitting there waiting to be taken out. The picture on the right is afterwards. You'll notice that the site is in a state what's called rough graded. So that's essentially what you'll see after this Ppdr program is complete on your property. Next slide. So this is the sequence of events for debris removal, just kind of laid out here all in one slide. The contractor starts with removal of the ash footprint, including the incidental soil on the site. They move on after that to removal of foundations, and this includes the concrete slab floor and any structural support piers that might be on site. Then they'll move to the removal of driveways that were damaged by the fire or from heat from the fire. After that, the homeowners can, homeowners can elect to have your non-damaged or non-destroyed driveways and other concrete flat work, such as patios and private sidewalks, removed. After that's done, they will take care of removing the accessory buildings, such as sheds, detached garages, any barns that may have burned or were damaged. They take care of any utility locates and confirmation of capping and disconnecting those utilities so that you can be confident that when you start to rebuild, you know where everything is and you're assured that everything was capped, disconnected properly, and taken care of during the Ppdr. They remove trees that are deemed hazardous by certified arborists. So you'll notice on your property, there's soon there will be an arborist coming around and marking the trees and a little bit later in this presentation, I'll go through what those markings mean. Then they'll do natural grading of the debris site. If you as the homeowner or the property owner doesn't plan to rebuild right away, if you do plan to rebuild right away, the contractor will do sloughing of the basement holes and then install OSHA compliant safety fencing. You can be assured that during this process, there will be proper separation and handling and disposal of all materials. As Resource Conservation Division, we have a goal of reducing our impacts to the landfill. So our goal is to recycle as much material from these sites as possible, which is difficult because it is ash and debris, which a large part of that cannot be, but scrap metal can be taken and repurposed, which is good news. There will be continual community air monitoring to confirm that engineering controls are effective for this project, as well as erosion control measures will be installed in accordance with all of the stormwater pollution protection plans that are in place. Lastly, there will be DOT inspections for all of the vehicles operating on the project to ensure that local roads are as safe as possible during the debris cleanup. Next slide, please. So here's some more pictures just of what you all as homeowners, as property owners can expect from the debris removal program. The top left there is kind of the beginning of the removal, and then you move over to the top right. That's getting rid of that basement, the foundation work. And then those bottom two photos are kind of what you can expect from the end product there. Next slide, please. Oh. So tree tagging. A certified arborist has begun tagging trees already. They've gone out at least into the first runway of houses. And I'd just like to explain to you what those colors mean, because you might see some painting on your trees. Starting with the left, we have light blue, which is marked as a hazard tree, and that can be removed at any time. It's not a leaner or a hanger or anything that is super dangerous, so it can be removed at any time during the debris removal. A white tree with a white marking is a tree that's been requested to remain intact. That means that the arborist has determined that tree will live and it should remain in place. Oh. There we go. Oh, can we move back one? Thank you. So yellow, that means that the arborist couldn't determine which property that tree was on for whatever reason. So that'll be marked as yellow and maybe further investigated. Red means it's a dangerous tree. It's a hanger, meaning it's hanging over the property or leaning onto the property or onto some piece of that makes it a danger to the debris removal crews. Those will be removed right away. Black is used to cover up any previous markings that were on that tree. If it was mistakenly marked, you'll see black markings on there. And caution tape means that is an immediate hazard tree that needs to be removed right away. Next slide, please.
Cody, can you mention the QR code to upper left?
Yes, certainly. So if you can go back to the tree slide. So on the upper left is a picture of a QR code, and all the trees are also being tagged with this specific code to mark that they have been assessed by the arborist. Did you want me to say anything else about that, Gary?
No, I mean, is there a way you can use your phone to QR it, or what is the purpose? Just internal?
I can jump in on that one, Gary. Yeah, if you
Okay.
use your phone with that QR code, it should take you to a similar scene as what you're seeing here and show you what the identifications are on the tree and what they mean. That's my understanding of the QR code. It's a way for residents to have more knowledge about what the markings on their tree means.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, so at this point in the project, here are our next steps for getting the Ppdr off the ground. Homeowners, you can opt into the PPDR program up until the time that the crews commence work on your runway. And I know you all have questions about the runways. We're working on finalizing that. We should have something out this week, I imagine. So you can opt in up until your runway has begun, and you should have plenty of time to determine that. Homeowners will be contacted to collect final information. That information includes the homeowner's preference to remove non-damaged or destroyed driveway and other of the ineligible concrete flat work, like patios and private sidewalks, as mentioned previously. The homeowner will then sign an assignment of benefits form. That they do that so that the county can work directly with your insurance company to obtain debris removal proceed information, and if applicable, have your debris removal proceeds assigned to the county and be applied to the cost of the PPDR work. This piece is required for FEMA reimbursement of the PPDR project costs. And for homeowners who have already received debris removal proceeds, the county will contact you directly to collect the amount of those received proceeds. So be sure to keep that money in a separate fund or an account, or just know how much that your insurance company paid you for that debris removal work. For homeowners who have not yet received the your debris removal proceeds, the county will work directly, as stated above, with your insurer to collect those proceeds from that assignment of benefits form. That gives us, the county, the authority to do that. Traffic control systems will be in place, will be placed on major truck routes to keep everyone safe and to keep everything flowing efficiently during the project. And erosion control measures will be installed as well to protect groundwater and other sources. Next slide. The schedule, currently DRC will begin individual site inspections in preparation for debris removal efforts. This includes verification of right of entry forms for accuracy, making sure that we're on the correct property, reviewing the homeowner requests for items to preserve if there were any requests made to preserve items or do any of that sifting work that may not have been completed by those volunteer organizations that were doing that earlier on. Conducting a 360-degree walk of the property to inspect for potential hazards, something that is done before every site is started. As individual site inspections are completed, the prioritization list will be finalized and released. And that's, as I said, we're working on that currently. We should have something before the end of the week. I know we're all hoping to have that. Homeowners, you will be notified in advance of the expected arrival of those debris removal crews, and then you'll be notified again upon completion of the removal effort. The debris removal program is expected to take approximately 4 months to complete. And the cost for all of this, overall, the cost of this program is approximately $60 million. Participating property owners, you will contribute the amount of money dedicated in your home. Yep.
Cody, sorry. I just got an email from a participant who says the slides have been minimized, so people who are viewing this cannot see that. So can the moderator check with the slides and maybe, so sorry about that, but I just want to make sure everyone can see this. Natalie or Jen, or do you see how to address that?
And Gary, that would be a setting on the individual viewer's computer. We are showing the slides as large as possible with an ASL interpreter and Cody on screen small.
Okay.
So there are individual settings that attendees can toggle between that will affect the size of the slides and the presenters throughout.
Okay, I got another text from someone saying that the view is fine. So thank you. Sorry, Cody, go ahead.
Just, we can add that we will have this presentation posted immediately after this meeting to our project website.
Yeah, I know there's settings in Zoom where you can kind of switch your screens, and for whatever reason, Andrew, when you just spoke, it switched mine, so I had to switch it back. Um, anyhow, so yeah, participating property owners, you will contribute the amount of money dedicated in your homeowner insurance policy for debris removal to this project. Uninsured and underinsured homeowners will be covered through this project as well. And I believe that is, we have one last slide, I think, from my presentation. Yeah, if you have, there's additional resources. If you have any questions, you can email debris@bouldercounty.org. And then we have the following web pages for all of our debris removal FAQs. Any information you might want or need is on these web pages. So thank
All right,
you all
thank you,
for your
Cody.
time.
Thank you, Cody. And Natalie, if we could just leave that slide up for a little while so people can get those resources, that would be helpful as well. I just wanted to add one more thing before we begin taking your questions. I want to let you know that we are finalizing the neighborhood sequencing list, and we do expect to release that by Friday, as Cody was alluding to earlier. This list will allow you to see how soon your neighborhood will be addressed within the 4-month project schedule. So it'll give you an idea of where you fall within that 4-month project schedule. And you'll see that coming out from us either Thursday or Friday of this week. And with that, I will turn it over to questions and answers.
And Director Maxwell, I did just want to let you know that we did receive DRC slides, so we would be welcome to present that, and we're just getting those up on the screen.
Perfect, that would be great. So Mark, if you don't mind going back and running through your slides once those come up, I think that would be really helpful for the residents to see.
Thank you, Andrew. I'll try to be very brief. I think the meat of the presentation Cody just covered, but I'd like to introduce our company.
And I'll just say, while we've had at least 100 people join since the beginning of the presentation, and just to remind folks that this is being recorded and we will be putting this on the website, the county website, as well as our partner websites, as well as the presentations tomorrow. And we will open up the chat for question and answer as soon as Mark has completed his part of the presentation.
Is there a slide?
And just 1 minute, our production staff is putting the slides up.
Jen, I can do a brief introduction without the slides. If
Go for it.
that would work better, it'll be very brief. The DRC Emergency Services has been around for 33 years in the disaster sector. We have 2 sister companies also in that sector that we're very proud of. One is a local company by the name of, okay, here we are. So let me start over here. Thank you, Jen, for the slide. And I show our mission statement because I think it's important in the context of what everyone has endured and what our mission is, and that is to provide dependable, honest, and customer-centric services, building lasting relationships with clients we serve. And the importance of that statement is that we want to leave you with a lasting, good impression of our company. And that is our intention from day one. We worked hand in hand with the county, preparing to get to work on this mission. And we're very sensitive to the, as I said before, the dilemma, the trials and tribulations that each of you have encompassed up until this point. So we want to leave you with a very good taste in your mouth and get you on your way to recovery and back to normalcy. Next slide, please. just a little few facts about our company. We hold some benchmarks, some FEMA benchmarks to show you our capacity in 2021, 16 million cubic yards of debris, and managed 82 debris management sites, just to give you a feel for what our company is capable of doing. And I'll go down to, we still hold a productivity record for disaster debris in a single day. And very pertinent is the last bullet point, and that is, we've never left a local jurisdiction with a deobligation. All of our clients have always received 100% of their FEMA funding. That's because we want to do things right. We aim to do things right. And that's our mantra. Next slide, please. Just an indication of some of the recent programs, recent projects that we've taken on. The Southern District of the California wildfires, a large park, 627 parcels. You can see the trees, you can see the massive amount of tonnage that we removed. But I think the most pertinent point is that we worked over a span of 4 counties, 4 California counties in doing this work. And that's a massive undertaking. We did this with our local, with our sister company, Forgin. So DRC and Forgin held hands on this project. Next slide, please. This is a Washington fire, Washington State fire that we just completed. We completed the second part of this fire. We received performance commendations from both the state and the local jurisdictions. Slide, please. Forgin participated in the Wolseley fire, and not to belabor the point, but you can see the tonnage and the properties. This was a smaller project. Forgin was a subcontractor on this one. Next slide. And the same thing for the Paradise fire. This is only to demonstrate that our team will consist of DRC, the contract holder, Forgin, our local commonly owned sister company, doing approximately half of the subcontracting to us, and a company by the name of Coleman, who's got so much experience, it would take me a half a day to lay it all out on both sides of the equation, both as construction management and as debris removal contractors. So I want to let you know that we want to be here for a long time. We hold a standby contract with the county, and we want to make sure that we hold that contract into the future. So we're here to do a good job for you. We want to listen to your concerns. We want to work hand in hand with everyone, and we're proud to be your contractor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mark. We appreciate that. Why don't we go ahead and move into the question and answer phase of the meeting. And Gary and Andrew, if you want to start letting us know some of the questions that are coming across your desk, we can start answering them.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. And I want to thank all the presenters. I think we have an excellent team. We're really excited to get going. And I think the chat is now open, so you can begin to insert your questions. We'll try to answer as many as possible. I think one of the first questions, and I know Andrew has some already, is when will we see heavy equipment out on sites?
So I can start that one off. You know, we've already started the work in the field and all of the preparatory work that's going to go into leading up to the heavy equipment entering private property lots. As we talked about earlier today, the arborist has to identify the trees. We have to do individual site inspections at each property to ensure that we're removing what the residents want us removed and to remove, and that we're not removing items that they don't want us to remove. So it's a fairly involved process. It's important because it helps us provide good customer service to the residents. We're not just going in blindly. We're inspecting the sites. We're honoring their concerns and their conditions. And we have to put that all together before the heavy equipment goes out into the field. That being said, we have an enormous team, and DRC can speak to this as well, but we have an enormous team that's doing this preparatory work. So we're very confident this is going to happen quickly, but we want it to happen right. And we want to make sure we do the job right so that we don't make mistakes on individual property owners' sites. So we're doing this upfront work right. And once we have an understanding of how soon that's going to wrap up, we'll immediately release the start date. In preparation for the start date, we are also planning to release the prioritization schedule this Friday. And that will show you within the 4-month time frame where your property lies. So you'll know if you're in the first portion of the debris removal effort or maybe toward the middle. And that can help you kind of gauge how much time it might take for your property to be completed. But the short answer is we don't have the hard, fast date for yellow equipment because we have a lot of other work to do in preparation for that day. And as soon as we know that day, we will make that announcement.
Great, thank you. Andrew, do you have some questions as well?
Sure, I see a lot of them coming up in the chat that are in the list I have here too. So there might be some duplicative effort, but we can start with, how will I know if my driveway is going to be reused or if it needs to be replaced?
Oh, let's see, who might have the best perspective on that? I guess that's going to be part of the site inspections, and maybe Luke or Mark, you might have a better feel for how often driveways are in need of complete replacement rather than just being partially damaged and repairable. Luke, maybe you can speak to your experience because you have a vast amount of experience with driveways in fires similar to this, and how many of them are salvaged in the process and how many of them are usually completely removed.
Yeah, no problem, Jeff. As everyone knows, this fire burned very, very hot. And when concrete is heated to a certain temperature, the air pockets within that concrete begin to fracture. So a lot of driveways, while they may look good on the surface, as soon as we put a little bit of weight on that, it will cause damage. In my estimation, I would say 30 to 40% of driveways that I have encountered don't have any damage after we're done. Under this program, homeowners will have the option. We will remove all driveways if the homeowner wants. If we damage your driveway throughout the course of the debris removal operation, then we will remove that driveway. I hope that answers the question.
Thanks, Luke. So another one is, I requested sifting as part of the cleanup. Can you describe how the contractor will sift so I understand what will be done on my property?
Mark, can you walk us through what that process looks like for DRC to complete sifting when that request comes in?
It simply means we're going to take extraordinary care to work with the homeowner to locate the valuable or the missing item. We will, when possible, we'll use our heavy machinery to move or carefully excavate the portion that needs to be removed. In other cases, we'll use smaller hand tools to uncover and locate, hopefully, the missing item. But rest assured that we're sensitive to these dilemmas, and we intend to work with a homeowner to find their valuables.
So, thank you. A related question is, people would like to know if they can be present during some of this activity, and how will they be notified when the contractor will be on their property to be able to see what's going on and give input.
You want me to take that one?
Sure.
Through the state's contractor CDR, they have a company called AC Disaster Consulting. They will be making notifications 24 to 48 hours prior to mobilization to individual parcels. We also, before that happens, we are going to send out more notification forms for the consent of insurance form, as well as a more detailed ROE describing what flat work that was ineligible under the FEMA program, such as sidewalks that led to the backyard to someone's swing set, or driveways that need to be removed. We're going to be sending out a form that asks homeowners to detail what they would like removed during that process. Did I answer the question, Gary? Or what was the full question? I'm sorry, I got lost on flat work.
Yeah, just again, the notification was the key one. Yeah.
Yeah, the 24 to 48 hours will let you know we're mobilizing. And then during that time, please request to ACDC that you would like to be present, and we can have a county division supervisor escort you out to the active construction zone, show you what's going on, answer any questions that you have, and then you're free to stay at a safe distance away as long as you're not in any danger from a health and safety standpoint.
And I guess another common question is, if I'm at the site, can I grab a memento, something there? Is that okay to take something as long as it's not hazardous?
To a degree. So as long as you are checking in with a supervisor and escorted by a construction professional that is out in the field, we will do what we can to allow people to go onto an active construction zone. But please note that this is a hazardous waste remediation area. All of our workers will be in level C PPE, that is, Tyvek suits, respirators, hard hats. It is a dangerous work zone, and working, if the public comes into the zone, we will automatically stop that operation, talk to the person who's walking in, but it will slow the crews down. So we need to have a formal notification process through that subsequent debris removal form to understand what people want.
Thank you. Andrew, I'm sure you have more.
Sure. So what steps will be taken to ensure the safety of neighbors who remain in the area? And will there be communication with them to ensure that they are notified when work is going to take place in their area?
Mark, do you want to cover that?
I didn't hear the first part of the question. If
Yeah,
somebody
sure.
could repeat it.
Mark, it's how will we ensure the safety of those remaining in neighborhoods that are still living there? What steps are you going to take to mitigate dust, ash from flying and all that good stuff? What's the safety
Sure.
measures?
So water, as we're actively working a parcel, a water vessel, if you will, whether it's a truck or we call them water buffaloes, will be present, and it's mandatory that we continuously water the site down to keep particulates from rising due to the activity on the site. That's one piece of the safety that we will take. The other piece I think we mentioned is a traffic control program by which we'll control any flow of traffic at the time. And then again, Luke mentioned Tyvek, level C PPE that all the personnel will be wearing. Now, I hope I heard the whole question. Maybe I didn't.
Yeah, it was another follow-up was how will neighbors be notified? And I think I can, as communications, I'll be working with, I have my list. We'll be, releasing news releases. We'll be doing the individual emails. There's, we have an email listserv that you can subscribe to. If you haven't already, that's available on our website. I'll be pushing out messages as often as possible, and you'll start to see these crews roll into neighborhoods. If I'm not mistaken, there'll be a lot of equipment and a lot of trucks. So, and a follow-up to that is, how will you be moving the trucks safely through the neighborhoods, the traffic control plan, and then storing them at the end of the day? Will they be cleaned at the end of the day? Or will they be safe for movement through neighborhoods?
You hear that? You want to take it? Sure.
Hi, everybody. This is Dan Strode with DRC and Forging. Our trucks go through an inspection before we start. All the material is wetted. And just to roll back to public safety, we are working in compliance with CDPHE guidelines and OSHA guidelines on everything that we do. All the debris is wetted so that none of the debris is aerosolized, and it's double wrapped in 2 6-mil polys in the field, taken to an approved landfill. The landfills inspect the trucks when they come in, and they also inspect the trucks when they go out to ensure that there's no debris on the outbound side. So our checks and balances and engineering controls on not only the operational side, but the environmental side are in compliance with, as I said, CDPHE, OSHA, any local and county guidance, and then we're working in concert with the county and the local landfills to ensure the trucks are clean going out.
And then if I can add one more thing about protecting the community, is that we have perimeter air monitoring set up. That allows us to quantify our engineering controls during the debris removal. When we start these projects, we'll probably be in an area where there are multiple destroyed homes and not next to people who are inhabiting other homes. We will be able to quantify our engineering controls, say we need to add a little bit more water. Our excavators need to move a little bit slower. If anything gets picked up in those perimeter air monitoring samples, we'll stop the project, reassess engineering controls, move forward with different controls, and make sure that the samples are coming back clean prior to progressing with more and more crews.
Thanks, Luke. How will vehicles that remain trapped be dealt with, and what should I do about my vehicle if it's still stuck in the debris and I haven't been able to get to it?
Well, I can take this one. Right now, the county is working with Boulder County DMV. We're working with the state, and we're working with the local law enforcement to identify an adjudication system. We are hoping that we will have off-duty police officers go from house to house, identify vehicles for their make and model that are listed on the insurance reports that they have access to. Once the police officer is able to say, hey, this looks like a minivan that's stuck at 123 Happy Lane, they will paint a X on it. Our debris monitor, CDR, will come by and tag that. DRC is then free to load that up. They plan on using high-sided trailers. We'll make sure that we get all of the ash and debris out and we don't have any fluids leaking out, and maintain all of the environmental compliance on that side. Those will be loaded into whatever conveyance that DRC deems most efficient at the time, and they will be sent down to a local car crushing facility in Denver. Did I capture that, Mark and Dan?
Yeah, excellent. Thanks again. So who will be capping utility lines, and who will pay for this prior to our demolition work on the property?
Mark, you want to take that?
Yeah, this is Dan. I can take that. We are working with Boulder County and the hired third-party monitors to locate and cap all private utilities. We'll verify that all through 811, call before you dig, that all utilities have been located. And then as far as those utilities going on the property, we will find those, locate them, cap them, and mark them.
Can I ask a question, Andrew?
Yeah, Gary, anytime.
Thank you, sir. You mentioned about opting in. What about opting out? What's the deadline for opting out if someone chooses to not participate in this program and do the program, have a private contractor remove their debris? What's the process and what's the deadline?
So really, a property owner can opt out up until the time that the contractor has entered their runway and has started work in their runway. That's really where it's problematic for the contractor to readjust to that request. So we would prefer that they opt out earlier than that, but they do have the option to opt out right until the contractor is entering their neighborhood.
And can you define runway? What does that mean, that term mean?
Yeah, so runway is just how we are parsing out different neighborhoods for efficiency. So it may mean more than just one street. It may mean several streets that are adjacent that makes sense to address debris removal efforts in a concerted effort in those areas. So it's really about efficiency more than anything else. And when we release the prioritization list this Friday, that will have some indication of what those runways will look like.
And I'm assuming runways, like you said, include a number of houses. You don't just, in the
Correct.
prioritization, don't cherry pick one house on a street. It's the whole street that,
Correct.
okay. Great. Another question about trees. Will you remove the root ball as well, or do you just cut off the tree? What's that process?
Mark, do you have that level of detail for what your service will look like?
Yeah, I can take this. This is Dan. All the trees will be cut, flush cut to the ground within 6 inches of the ground level, parallel with the ground that it's sitting on. So it'll be 6-inch stump. We are not removing root balls.
Great. And how about how much will how much will you be charging their insurance? How much funds from their insurance will you be taking to pay for the contractor's work? And then the second part of that question is, if someone does not have debris as a earmarked or specific line item in their insurance policy, how is that seen? Or is it seen that they're uninsured and therefore not charged at all?
Maybe Carrie Doyle, if you're on the call, you might have a higher level of expertise on how we're handling insurance nuances.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. I'm Carrie Doyle. I'm one of the attorneys in the county attorney's office. Insurance collection will be its own part of this PPDR program. As we've explained, in order to receive FEMA reimbursement, we're required to collect the debris removal insurance proceeds from each homeowner. So every policy varies. I'm sure you have all heard this from your own insurance companies, and we've all been learning this along the way. So my understanding is that it's actually pretty rare that there is no debris removal insurance proceeds in your policy, but where the debris removal insurance proceeds, like where you find them in your policy, varies policy to policy. So that's an analysis that we're going to have to look at if your policy happens to be one that has no debris removal insurance proceeds at all. There sometimes, and I don't really want to take over the whole call and talk for an hour about insurance. We will be working on that. We will be contacting you directly, or if you've signed both the ROE form and the assignment of benefits form, which is a new form that you'll be receiving as part of this pre-work, then for some people, we'll be able to just interface directly with your insurance company to collect the right amount and only the debris removal proceeds. We're not taking other proceeds. We're trying to do our best to limit the amount of insurance proceeds we take from your policy. We're only taking those proceeds tagged for debris removal.
Hey, Carrie, do you mind if I chime in a little bit?
Sure.
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Michael Haney. I work for the state of Colorado, and I actually administer the FEMA public assistance program here in the state. So I think everything Carrie said was right on. The term that FEMA uses is the public assistance program cannot duplicate assistance. It cannot create a duplication of benefits. And so if there's a benefit from your insurance company, FEMA can't then duplicate that benefit. The only other thing I really wanted to add though, Carrie, was we have got confirmation that FEMA will apply insurance proceeds to any ineligible items first. So for instance, if the flat work, if you want to have your debris, your driveway removed and say that's $1,000 and your insurance proceeds were $5,000 for debris removal, then the duplication there in that case would only be $4,000 because you would take the $5,000 minus the $1,000 for ineligible work. So that's the only thing I wanted to clarify. Thanks, guys.
Just the other question is there an estimate of what a site will cost, what you will charge for the insurance? Is there an estimate for how much it will cost to remove debris from a site?
Well, I think you're asking both about, the question is about how much of the insurance proceeds we would be collecting, Gary, is that the question?
Yeah, I think people are trying to understand, is it 40,000? Is it 50? I mean, is it ballpark? I mean, I think they're trying to do comparisons with how much coverage they have. Should they go to should they think about opting out? What is the potential cost that their insurance will be charged?
So, and this is another one where I have heard from insurance companies and the Division of Insurance that it seems likely that the amount of debris removal insurance proceeds would be less than the cost per parcel to do the debris removal. But in any event, we would only be collecting up to the amount of debris removal, up to the cost of the debris removal. And I would say the ballpark cost of a parcel, does anyone want to jump in on this? I think it's in the neighborhood of about $50,000 to do debris removal per parcel under this program.
Great, thank you, Carrie. The other question is and then Andrew, I'll let you jump in here, is around retaining walls. What's the approach to retaining walls?
Anyone have thoughts on that, Luke, or?
Yeah, I can take that one. Under the FEMA program, retaining walls are eligible if they cause a immediate danger to public infrastructure or health and safety. Basically, the way that the retaining walls will work is it's a systematic system. We'll have to get a structural engineer on board. They will have to assess how we can safely provide shoring for that retaining wall, remove the retaining wall, and then the reconstruction of that retaining wall is a piece I don't understand under the FEMA reimbursement. But what we will do is we'll leave temporary shoring in place, and the local municipalities will then take it from there to ensure that the roads are safe and that the lot is stabilized prior to any further rebuilding activities.
Yeah, Luke, and maybe again, let me chime in here. So where we're at right now with the retaining walls is probably those ones that were built with like railroad timbers, the ones that were soaked in creosote. Those probably do present a threat to public health, and as long as we can safely remove them, then it most likely will be eligible under the FEMA Public Assistance Program. Other ones, it's exactly what Luke said. We've got to be able to make a determination that they present a threat to public health and safety for them to be eligible to be removed. So just like Luke said, it'll be a systematic process about that evaluation, kind of property by property, wall by wall.
Okay, I'll jump in. Can you talk about more about soil removal and testing, and how will I know that the land on my property is safe when you're done?
I can take this one as well. As Cody had explained in his slides, we will be removing all of the ash and debris plus the incidental soil. We define that as 3 to 6 inches, 6 inches being the maximum, 3 inches being the norm. Once everything is taken from a site, we have soil sampling teams that will go out and they will take samples based on the standard operating procedure that is approved by CDPHE and the local health departments, to go out and quantify what, if any, contaminants are left after the debris removal operation. If we find exceedances, and by exceedances, I mean, these are all based on the Colorado Soils Evaluation Table. We've taken background samples, and we all know that Colorado has naturally high arsenic, for example. That's one of the contaminants of concern that, if you have arsenic on your property, you have arsenic all the way down to bedrock, typically here in Colorado. So we'll go back, we'll take these samples. If we find exceedances, our teams will mark out where we have those exceedances. DRC will mobilize a rescrape crew, which goes around to lots that have been identified as having exceedances, remove more soil. We will test that soil again until each sample comes back below the threshold values for a residential property. After that, all of this data is compiled. It is sent to the local municipalities. They incorporate it into their database for building permits and everything else. So you can rest assured, if we are working on your property, you will be left with a clean property. You won't have any environmental restrictions in the future or covenants placed on your property when we're done with this. I hope that was helpful.
Absolutely, thank you. Please define the ash footprint now that there is debris and ash strewn about my yard.
I can take that one as well. So as everyone knows, we all have small yards in Colorado, except a few lucky folks out in unincorporated. Due to the severity of this fire, due to the high winds, most of the smaller lots that I have seen have ash everywhere. So when you're defining an ash footprint, it is anywhere that you can find residual ash and debris contamination. If we find it in the back corner and it is strewn throughout the rocks, we come through with our excavators and we will scrape that as I just described. Remove the ash and debris with the incidental soil underneath anywhere we find that. Move it all, sample it all, gets in the truck, everybody can start rebuilding.
Okay. Are drilled pier foundations going to remove full depth or truncated at a certain depth? If they're truncated, will they be surveyed so homeowners can plan a new foundation?
I think Dan would be the best to handle this one.
Yeah, normally we look at a basement with the typical basement construction would be the walls, the floor, and the footing. If there are extenuating circumstances, deep piers, caissons, things like that, the basement structure and the normal basement foundation concrete will be removed. The caissons or piers will be cut, marked, and located.
Thanks, Dan. Back to more about basements. Please explain what sloughing is, as mentioned in the presentation. How will basement holes be properly compacted?
Dan and Mark, you want to address that one?
Yeah. So the sloughing. So when we remove the basement, we will take and try to slough or push the top corners of that basement in to create a slope. And if we can get to a 2-to-1 slope, that's what was recurred. We're using the word slough as in the earth around the basement will not be perpendicular to the floor anymore. We'll push it off and create a 2-to-1 slope. 2-to-1, 1.5 to 1 to try and create a OSHA compliant fall protection area around those basements. Some of those we won't be able to get that, so we use construction to put around that.
Hang on, Dan, can you, Mark, when you two guys talk, you need to mute one of you, because I think you're in the same room and there's feedback. So one of you decide who's going to talk and then the other mute. Thanks. So go ahead, Dan. Can you say that again? Oh no, both of you are muted. Oh goodness. Never mind. Unmute then, you rascals. Go ahead and unmute, Mark. I think we're gonna have to figure this out.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. It's the sloughing is just a sloping of the basement to create when it's left, it creates a fall protection hazard. Okay. So we try to mitigate that with the slope, trying to get to a 1.5 to 2 to 1 slope. We are not compacting the basements. That material we pushed in and rough graded. I'm sorry. I hope that answers the question.
Well, and a follow-up, Dan, will you be replacing the 3 to 6 inches that is removed, like the topsoil?
We will not.
Okay, thank you. Keep going, Andrew.
Sure. So how much notice will you provide to me when you start, before you start work on my property? And how will you notify me before you start work on my property? And can I be there when you start work on my property? So 3 parts there.
I'm a little bit slow, Andrew, but could you ask me the first one?
Sure. How much notice will you provide before you start work on my property? And then how will you notify me of that work starting?
You will receive a call 24 to 48 hours prior to us mobilizing to your property.
So the phone call. All right, excellent. And then can I be there while you're working on my property?
Once again, if you make a special request that you want to be present during debris removal, we will try to make accommodations. But this is an active environmental remediation project with big restrictions on who we can allow into the active work zone. You know, we're more than happy to accommodate people that want to stand at a distance and take pictures of the process. We can have our field teams answer questions, but as far as ever being in a swing radius near a truck that could be backing up or any other construction-based or environmental hazard, then we cannot actively work on your site if you are too close to us.
Thank you.
Great. And I just a quick follow-up. How do people submit requests for special things they want to preserve, or if they need sifting, or to check to see, you know, what's in their file to see what's already been requested? How do they make that request?
Carrie, do you have the details on the new form that Taylor and you have been editing?
I have some details. I guess the main answer to the question is that every homeowner who has opted in will be contacted by the county or the county's contractors to go through a list of items. Included in that list is, do you want your driveway removed if it's not damaged? You know, we'll have you sign the assignment of benefits form for insurance so we can deal directly with your insurance company. And there's a number of other issues on that list. And so that would be the time that you could talk. You will be interfacing directly with representatives of the county about your parcel specifically, but we also have the email address that's on the PowerPoint that you can send questions to at any time. And maybe Andrew, you could tell us what that email is.
So the email that's your ROE@bouldercounty.org right now to check on the form that you submitted already. But again, at the end of the slide, there was a debris@bouldercounty.org. And there's a team monitoring that as well, working with both teams are working in cohesion. So either one, and we'll get you to the right place. How long will it take to clear the average property?
I can take that. We're obviously some of the properties in unincorporated versus some in the municipalities will take different time, but we're using an average duration of 4 days per property. If we end up using, if the homeowner would like some more, if they have extensive flat work, that would obviously extend that a little bit. But the average estimate is 4 days per property.
Thank you. Gary, I'm scrolling. Do you have any loaded up that you can see?
Yeah, will fencing be covered for removal?
I think Michael Haney would be able to help us with that one.
Yeah, probably not, unless, I mean, if we're talking about burnt fencing, that's just an ash pile, then yeah, that will be considered, hazardous waste and be considered a threat to public health. A standing fence, or mostly standing fence, most likely would not be eligible for FEMA public assistance. And so then that would be a question on whether or not the various municipalities, want to add that as an option for removal or not.
Okay, the other question is around the prioritization process. They understand that you're going to release a list by Friday. Can you talk about how that list, how that prioritization was arrived at?
A big component of it was compliance with the FEMA environmental and social prioritization requirements for reimbursement. And so we had to look at different neighborhoods through that lens and determine how to prioritize it based on FEMA's guidelines. Another component of it is areas where we have runoff issues and stormwater issues that are critical to get to first and foremost. And so those were the two biggest factors in bringing that list together. We also worked alongside with those priorities to try and ensure that we were getting properties in all three jurisdictions so that Louisville, Superior, and unincorporated Boulder County were not left out of the runways or the prioritization schedule early on. So we've been working hard to make sure that all of those elements are balanced in the final prioritization schedule, and that's what we hope to release this week.
And thank you. And to be really clear, the commitment still is to complete the work in the 4-month time frame. So although you may not be in the first wave of work, please know that within the 4-month period, depending on any weather events, etc., the work will be completed. So another question is, can you give an example about insurance, Carrie? So say someone has $20,000 for debris removal in their policy. What will that look like? In that example, how will they be treated?
Sure. If they have $20,000 specified for debris removal, and if they have filled out the ROE form, which they have to opt into the program, and if they've not received that money yet from their insurance company, if they fill out the assignment of benefits form, again, that's a form we'll put out in a bit, not tonight. We will be in touch with you to get that form signed. We would work directly with your insurance company and collect that $20,000. The other $30,000 cost of the debris removal program is paid for by the government. So that's what that would look like. If you have already received, as part of your initial check or as part of the proceeds you've received already, the line item of $20,000 for debris removal, then we will be in touch with you to have you pay over that $20,000 to us for us to apply to this program.
Great, thank you. And also just a clarification about the opt-out. How does someone opt out? What is the actual process?
They email the ROE email address that Andrew can share with us again, the same email address that they've been contacting about their ROE form since the beginning of this program to let us know that they would like to opt out. Andrew, can you say the email address again, please?
Yeah, and I just put it in the chat. It's roe@bouldercounty.org.
And that would be true if you have opted out and you would like to opt back in, same email address.
Thank you. And then one last question, I'll hand it over to Andrew, is septic systems. How are they being addressed in the cleanup? Are they eligible? Are they involved? Or how do you handle that?
I can take this one. DRC will be out in the field on most of these are going to be in unincorporated Boulder County. And we have a general location of those systems. No, we will not be removing septic systems. We will be avoiding them. Most of them will be viable and need to be checked by the local jurisdiction prior to re-energizing that system. But our main goal during debris removal is to not damage that system. So we'll mark it out. We'll verify based on the ROE and any information we can get from the homeowner and the county building departments. So we'll try to preserve those at all costs.
Luke, how about?
And also,
go ahead, Gary.
Sprinkler systems, is that what you're going to say, Andrew?
That was the follow-up, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw a few of those in the chat. With the sprinkler systems, I mean, obviously the heads are all going to be within that 3 to 6 inch incidental soil range. We will not be excavating down and hunting around if your sprinkler line is buried at a greater depth than 3 to 6 inches. What typically will happen is that we use excavators that have thumbs attached to them. If the operator is able to pull out portions of that, we can. Just know that sprinkler systems are usually not viable after you have, you're gonna end up having a whole new landscaping plan. The old pipes are pretty much worthless by the time that you go through it. And the cost to replace those versus how often your old system, if you tried to use the old pipes, will leak is usually not cost beneficial. Would you agree, Mark and Dan? Okay.
So this is, what if a property is sold and the previous owner had opted in? Will the new owner be responsible for the cost, insurance, and the follow through?
I guess that's me again. So if the property is sold, it can be part of the Ppdr program. The insurance is the previous homeowner's insurance. That is, it's the insurance policy in place at the time of the event. So we would need to, we would need to be able to work with the previous homeowner's insurance to collect those proceeds. So if you are in that situation, if you can contact that ROE email and let us know, we would need to have approval to communicate with the previous owner's insurance policy, insurance company.
And how about partially damaged homes that are being evaluated to meet the definition of destroyed? Maybe Michael or someone can respond to that.
Sorry, Gary, can you clarify that question?
Well, I mean, people are asking about partially damaged homes. What's going on with that evaluation process? Are they included in this, or how do they know?
Yeah, so right now, what we're doing is one, just kind of making sure that we're all, so FEMA had a list that was provided to them in early March, all of the homes that were determined destroyed, and they have evaluated those properties, and of the, I believe somewhere around the order of 830 some odd homes, they only found, I think, about 16 to 20 of them that did not meet the criteria for eligibility. Now, right now, all the municipalities, FEMA and myself, are just compiling another version of that master list because we did think that there was some errors on that. And so that's kind of the first thing that we're doing, is just making sure that we have that complete list. And the ROE forms are critical, to that list as well. But we're also using county assessor data just to make sure that we have the information. So first step is just making sure that we're all working off the same list. And the second thing is, to answer your question a little bit more directly, is the properties that are deemed to be ineligible, we will seek kind of concurrence from the municipalities that those are, just don't meet FEMA's criteria for eligibility. And if there's any disagreement at all, then FEMA, myself, and the local municipalities will go out and we'll do a in-person inspection of those, just to make sure that we can all concur and understand what the FEMA guidelines are. With all of that said, if still at the end of the day, we find it to be ineligible, then we will engage in conversations with the municipality. It may be eligible as a emergency protective measure rather than a debris removal project. And we'll explore all options to try and find some FEMA eligibility for that program. But it will be, kind of case by case depending on that. And then if, still at the end of the day, there's nothing that, the FEMA can do to help, then, it would be up to local municipalities about how they want to handle that property.
Okay, thanks. Andrew?
What exactly will you be testing for in the soil?
Right now, Boulder County Public Health, in conjunction with CDPHE, they ran through a list of 22 heavy metals, and they are starting to narrow that list down for the confirmation sampling based on the ash and debris samples that they have taken. As a county, we have no control over what the public health deems necessary for constituents of concern. So that's more of a public health question.
Okay. And then is there any possibility of testing soil, gathering soil on adjacent properties that remain standing?
Only if that is part of the program. So if there's ash and debris that is covering 80% of someone else's yard, I would have to defer to Michael on how that one will actually work. But our operation is kind of confined to a property, the delineation of the property boundaries based on our ROE that we have.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate to kind of keep saying this, but I mean, if there is a situation like that, it would be kind of, abnormal, and we'd have to bring that up with FEMA kind of on a case by case basis about what public health threat exists, demonstrating to them that ash does present a public health threat, that it was a result of this fire. And then, there's probably something that we could do, but we'd have to, analyze the specific situation with that.
Thank you. When does the 4-month timeline start?
DRC, you want to give us some insight into that?
Well, as far as we understand is I think the 4-month timeline will start when we have active operations on the ground and are in full force when we start working. Luke, maybe you guys give some more clarification, or Mark.
No, I concur with that. As soon as we start, that's when the 4-month timeline starts.
And I know you don't like answering this question, but ballpark, is there a ballpark? And I want to be clear with people about expectations, but I think also people want to know, and I don't want to push you if you don't feel comfortable with a specific date. I understand that, but I think people are understanding, is it 2, 3, 4 weeks? When does that clock start ticking, do you think? And then we'll give you can give a range. I just want.
Luke?
Yeah, Gary, that is the toughest question.
I know, I'm putting you on the spot.
Yep, and I am so happy that I've been on the team for 9 days, and I can report that in the next 2 to 4 weeks, we will start. But we have so many steps that we're going through to ensure that all of our ducks are in a row. If you mobilize an operation of this size with any gaps in how you manage the data, we will be swimming through the data for the next 3 years trying to sort it out. DRC is a machine. They are going to mobilize their army of heavy equipment, and it will be impressive when it happens. But right now, I am just holding my hands back saying, please don't flood us with data until our systems are stress tests and we understand where everything is going, where everything ends up, so that we can track it for everyone. So no one ends up with a lot that doesn't have the correct samples taken. So you have a problem down the road with rebuilding in your permit process. So
Yeah.
that's
No,
the
I
best I can do.
appreciate that. How many crews will be, once this thing is hitting its peak, how many crews will be out there doing the job at one time?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dan and Mark, but we have 30 crews slated, approximately 180 trucks. Each one of those crews will have 1 to 2 pieces of equipment. We'll have monitors in the field. We will have a very large presence in the community.
Yeah, there's nothing to correct there. I think you said it. The key passage was 180 vehicles running. And I think we're somewhat limited by that amount of traffic on the roads, that amount of traffic flooding into landfills at one time, and their capacity to get these trucks in and out with efficiency. I will say this: if we have any room, any ability to add capacity, to add trucks, add crews, we certainly will take advantage of that. But our configuration right now is for 30 crews to be mobilized, full mobilization in about 3 weeks, maybe a little more.
Great, thank you. And I guess, Andrew, a lot of questions tonight. Where will people see these posted and when?
Well, there's a lot of questions. So I will dig through this video and make sure our FAQs that are on the Boulder County Marshall Fire webpage are updated over the next few days. Just make sure that everything that we've shared tonight is accurate with what's on that web page. So that's at boco.org /Marshall, or sorry, yeah, boco.org/Marshall-debris-cleanup. The FAQs are linked to from there, but you can also reach them from boco.org/debris-program-FAQs. So give me a little time to work on that, and I will make sure that we're all everything's up. And then this video will be posted so people can continue to go back through this and hear what we've said this evening as well. So I have another question. If we decide to go private and a private contractor is doing our debris removal work at the same time our neighborhood is having public debris removal done, will there be a conflict between the private contractor and DRC?
Oh, I love that question and I love that problem. It means that we're getting a lot of work done, and we will have county division superintendents out in the field ensuring that we're not slowing down the private contractors, and we will play nice with everyone out there that's trying to get work done.
Thanks, Luke.
How about burnt landscape? Will you be removing burnt landscape?
If that burnt landscape is filled to the brim or even has ash and debris on top of it, it is part of the removal process. If it is in the back of your yard and the wind was blowing the exact opposite direction and there is absolutely no ash and debris in there, it is not eligible.
Okay, and how about wells? How will you safeguard wells? And
Wells
go
will,
ahead.
sorry, we'll deal with those the exact same way that we deal with the septic systems. We're going to stay away from them. We do not want to touch them. We do not want to damage them. We will mark them prior to the main mobilization of those debris removal crews, and we will stay far away.
So one of the questions that I get a lot is, what are the pros and cons of joining this coordinated debris removal program versus opting out and using a private contractor? And I'm not going to tell you what to do, but some of the pros and cons are, and things you should check are, number one, get in writing from your insurance company how much you have for debris cleanup. They're very complex policies, and so you need to verify that. And then the next piece is to get a quote from a private contractor who knows how to do this work, who knows the guidelines, that knows the procedures. And if those two numbers match up for you, and you're confident in that, that's a decision you need to make. If you don't want to worry about this, or a contractor having to keep track of they're doing the right thing, then this coordinated debris program is probably an option for you. So you just need to weigh what kind of involvement and project management you're going to have to do, and and how much money you have available.
See.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. So what if my insurance removal line item is more than what is actual cost to remove when the work is said and done? Will that money be refunded? How will that work?
Can you ask the question again, Andrew?
Sure, Carrie. It's the say my my line item in insurance is 60,000 and the actual cost is 50. Will you take the 60 or will I just the 50?
No, it is my understanding that we have to provide invoices to the insurance companies, so it's tied to the cost of the work.
Thank you.
So one of the questions was, without specific dates, it's hard for me to plan and decide whether to opt in or opt out. And I want to just reiterate, by the end of the week, we plan to release the list of neighborhoods and the order that they will be prioritized. So you will be able to tell, once the work begins, where you sit in terms of that order. And again, once the work begins is when that 4-month completion clock starts ticking. So the other thing to consider here is, it would be hard pressed to find anyone or that many people that have already have plans completed from their architect, they have a contractor ready to go, and have a permit from the building department, respective building department. So those things take time. Now I know there are anomalies where some people just built their house, or they have their plans and they're building exactly the same thing. And those people who I've talked to have already begun to opt out in the private contractor route. What I'm trying to articulate here is getting your architect, getting your plans developed, getting your building permit submitted, getting that reviewed takes months. So what we're trying to say here is we don't believe the debris program will delay you. So please just bear that in mind as you're thinking about the various steps.
Hey, Gary, this is Matt. Please, I wanted to circle back to the partially destroyed homes, because I've had discussions with some residents during this situation, and the question I get is, if that's, we're working hard with Michael, the state, and FEMA to determine if they're eligible or ineligible for the partially destroyed homes with more than one wall. And the question I always get is, what happens if it's deemed ineligible at the very end of this evaluation process? What then? And I think, in discussions with the town board, and I think, well, I'll speak for Superior, but I believe the three entities are thinking similar, but for Superior, we plan to include those if they've opted into the program as part of the debris removal process, and then there wouldn't be cost to the homeowner outside of what insurance they have for that debris removal. I just wanted to state that because I know there's some that get questions for my staff and me, for my residents.
Yeah, if I could, Gary, I was actually thinking about the same thing, Matt, clarifying that the Louisville City Council did take that stand. We're working to define the number of FEMA eligible destroyed homes versus ineligible, but the IGA was approved with funding for removal of ineligible destroyed homes. So it's our hope to remove those, assuming, like you said, Matt, that people opt in. And then as I was jumping on, I also, there's a question about they can't start permit review until debris removal is complete. At least in Louisville, we're prepared to start accepting building permit applications now. So if you're working with an architect and want to start that review process while debris removal, whether it's this program or privately, is ongoing, we're okay with that. We want to facilitate recovery and getting people back home.
Yeah.
And I'll confirm that's the same for Superior and Boulder County. And also the same thing in Boulder County as Superior and Louisville in terms of partially damaged homes. Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna echo what Jeff said about building permits. We won't be able to issue a building permit until, the site's been deemed cleaned and cleared, but yeah, we can accept those as well.
What will be the final statement or declaration or document that proves that my property has been cleared per FEMA or public health county standards? What is proof? For instance, I'm going to sell my house maybe years down the road. Someone might ask, was your house properly cleaned during the Marshall Fire? Is there a mechanism for documenting that?
We only normally run with about 15 year approaches. This last year we lost some. And we still didn't have that.
Matt and Jeff, can you guys answer that one?
Yeah, we'll have inspectors out that will get documentation from DRC and third-party monitors of the work that's been done. We'll have the soil test at the end. The utility's been capped. All that's confirmed. Once that's confirmed, then we'll have a file for each property that shows that all those inspections and work has been done and documented. And at that point, we can issue building permits.
Yeah, we're doing the same in Louisville. We're not doing individual demolition permits for these properties, but we're effectively doing permits so that we can track them through our system and have them maintain those files.
Yep.
Yeah. And then just to close the loop, the county contractor through the state monitoring will be providing all of the data that is collected on each parcel so that both Superior and Louisville will have that on a file for your property, and you won't have to deal with that process.
And speaking of permits, we've received over 100 demolition permits for families going and hiring a contractor to do this on their own. And there's quite a few underway. As of earlier this week, 3 of those have been already completed. So that work is ongoing out there in the field. You can actually go out there now and kind of watch this and see how this looks if you're interested in what to expect for your property.
So we have some further questions about the tree stumps. Can you talk more about why those are not being removed, and could they be a hindrance to rebuilding? And just share what's that reasoning?
I think that's
Luke or Michael, you want to take that one?
yeah, I think that'd be Michael.
Yeah, so I can talk from a FEMA eligibility standpoint. I think maybe just kind of backing up a little bit more is first and foremost that the FEMA Public Assistance Program is a program designed for public municipalities to, recover from a large disaster. It is not the individual assistance program. And so essentially what Boulder County, to even become eligible for this program, they had to do is they had to put in a special application requesting private property debris removal. FEMA normally does not approve that, but the FEMA region here and going up to the White House saw the need and the widespread public health threat for this work to take place, and they approved it very, very quickly. They approved it, and we were very, very grateful for their assistance. In addition to that, FEMA also did approve what they call the economic recovery components of it. So when there are a normal private property debris removal program, which already in itself is a high bar to clear, FEMA also approved the economic recovery, which also made it so that they would be able to pay for like foundation removal and things like that. But really, the answer to the question about why those things are not eligible for a FEMA program is cutting it at the ground level. That eliminates the public health threat. That tree can no longer fall into the right of way, fall onto somebody's property, and no longer presents an immediate threat. And so under this program, those are the kind of questions that FEMA has to ask and answer. And, based on prior precedent, a tree that is just cut at the ground level is no longer a public health threat, and therefore it's not eligible for this program.
Thank you, Michael. Is burn vegetation such as grasses, shrubs, weeds considered ash? Is that treated the same as ash resulting from burn structure?
If we're talking about landscaping, once again, if it is covered in ash and debris, then it will be removed as ash and debris. Most of these landscaping gardens were next to the house and they are completely destroyed and will basically crumble into dust, for lack of a better term, when the excavator is there, and therefore will be removed as ash and debris.
Thanks, Luke. Will a survey be required before the debris removal program of the lot?
A survey is not required before the debris removal program. Some municipalities, such as Superior, has indicated that they may go out and preemptively stake some of these lots to make it easier for the rebuilding process. But no, it is not required. If there are survey markers on any property that we can save, we will not touch those because we understand that it costs more money to have a licensed surveyor come out and replace those. We'll do our best to not destroy survey markers, but no, it is not required to do that for this program.
Okay. Thanks. And what about HOA property? How is that going to be handled?
Maybe I can take this one. This program is for private property, and so most of the homes are individual homes on a parcel. There's one condo development in Superior and one group of condominiums in Louisville that have HOA property, and the Louisville Condominium Association has submitted its own right of entry form for the common property. And that's somewhat of a special case, so we'll just be working through that with that condominium, and we have been working with those condominium owners throughout this process. So I think that is the answer, unless others have something to add.
I would add that we've had some initial conversations with some of the HOAs about some of these parcels, and in particular about landscaping and recovery in terms of how those areas would be restored. So we're working on defining those areas, and I'd anticipate we have some conversations specifically with some of those neighborhoods as we go forward. There's things like parks and stuff in Enclave, and those are definitely things that are, again, those aren't private property. So as public property, that we will be working to restore those areas, and then coming back and restoring all the public infrastructure as a separate piece also. And then just one more thing, Gary, on the trees, on the stumps, I should say. I think that it was the Louisville City Council's goal to remove as much of this debris as possible to give people a real head start on recovery. And there had to be some kind of a line drawn in terms of that expenditure, because FEMA's covering an awful lot of this. The state's helping out quite a bit, but the Louisville share is estimated to be somewhere between $4 and $6 million. So there's already a lot of expenditures on the table, and I think that's just something that we had to draw a line somewhere. On the fences, I think that there may be some room to look at those fences. That's something I'll talk to my team about and get with Luke on. But some of these fences that are destroyed, I think we might be able to include some of those.
Thanks, Jeff. Andrew?
I'm looking for a lot of them are duplicative, but DJ Gary, do you have anything else?
Well, I noticed someone said, how is it that some properties have been cleaned already? Well, it's because we offered the opportunity to people to opt out and not participate in the public coordinated debris removal program. And it's a stringent permitting process that they've gone through and hired their own contractor to do the work. Yeah, I'm not seeing any glaringly new questions either. I think some of them are repeating, like the prioritization, which we already went over, and the cars we went over. And I would urge people to go to and maybe Andrew, you can put in the chat, the FAQ web address, because a lot of these answers are already in the frequently asked questions section of the website. And that's where we will respond to these questions and place any new ones as well.
Just posted it, Gary.
Thank you.
All right, are we wrapped up with Q&A, Gary and Andrew?
Yeah.
Yes, I think there's some questions coming in right now, but let's just see for 1 second. What is the deadline for homeowners to complete debris removal for their property if they opt out? Does Superior or Louisville have a deadline set for people?
Here, that's a good question. We haven't set a deadline, but we are looking at, sometime later this fall. That's something we need to evaluate, because there will likely be some properties that don't get addressed, and we'll have to take care of that because of the public health issue. So sometime this fall is when we'll be evaluating our progress on that. And then there may be some issues with properties that have a hole where the foundation was, and at some point they're not moving forward with reconstruction. And that hole could present another, kind of public health concern in terms of, collecting trash and, safety and, water and bugs and those type of things. So we're aware of both of those concerns, but those are a little farther down the road for us.
Yeah, so similar place for us, Gary. We're evaluating the process, and at some point this year, we'll have some something for the board to consider.
Yeah, and I would ditto that for the county. One of the questions is, Carrie, is there's some insurance policies that the debris comes out of coverage A, which is for the dwelling. And it's not a special line item for debris like some policies. So I think people are concerned that we would take $50,000 out of their bucket for rebuilding their home So can you answer how that'll be handled?
I really can't answer it. I can tell you that I'm aware of that issue and that my goal is to try to collect particularly in those circumstances, the lowest amount of insurance that I can. And when I say I mean the county, and that's so that we can pay that toward the cost and remain compliant with the duplication of benefits requirements that FEMA has. But we are aware of that issue. We don't know how widespread it is. And I have heard some answers that seem to suggest that there is a limitation on that debris removal amount. So we're looking into it is the best answer I can give.
And what is the timing, Carrie? Do you imagine when we will be contacting insurance companies or individuals who've already been allocated their debris removal allocation from their insurance to start asking for those funds?
I don't know that I have the exact timing. I mean, our focus has been on getting the program up and running. And in talking to some of the communities in California, the collection of insurance goes on for a fairly long time. I would like it not to go on for a long time here. Our goal is to sort through the most efficient process to talk to 850 different company policy well, not 850 companies, but all of the different companies about 850 different policies to sort through collecting that payment. And so we're trying to put a process in place to do that. And we're certainly keeping the homeowner's interest and we very much understand that most homeowners are underinsured for rebuilding, and that is absolutely important to us to figure out how to support you and collect as little debris removal insurance as we can while still complying with FEMA.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else, Andrew, before we wrap it up?
I just got the who's completing the tree survey work, and will we be told when the trees are marked on our property?
I can take that one. The third-party monitor, CDR McGuire, is completing all of the tree surveys. And no, you will not be notified when your trees are individually marked on each parcel.
Yeah, and thanks. And there's another question Jennifer's asked. I'm not sure I really understand it, but maybe one of you do. Is there a way to address the damaged homes that back to the burn areas close to 20 feet who opted into the debris removal program? What does this mean for us? So Jennifer, I'm gonna put my email address in the chat. Will you email me and let's talk about what I'm not sure what we mean. We don't have enough time, but happy to talk to you. I also want to thank Jeremiah. Jeremiah has said he would volunteer to sue Michael Brown, countersue him, and take the proceeds and pay for the underinsurance for all the folks in the Marshall Fire. So Jeremiah, thank you for taking one for the team, and we wish you well with that. I want to thank all the presenters tonight. Thank Jeff and his team and Luke. I want to thank Andrew as well, our communications guru. I want to thank our partners, Matt, Allison, and Jeff, City of Louisville and Superior. Thank you, Carrie, for providing our legal advice. Michael from the state for joining us, and the DRC team, Dan and Mark. I also want to thank Jennifer, Jen, and Natalie for managing the Zoom call, and Cody for your fine work in the interpretation by Ray and Elena and Marina. This is, as you can see, is a huge team effort. So thank you all. I know we didn't answer every question. I know there's still some unknowns, but please let us, as you can see, we are really working hard to get this program up and running. And when it does, it's going to be a pretty significant effort, and you'll see how quick it goes. So let's stay in touch. Again, we'll be releasing information about the order of the neighborhoods by the end of the week. And thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thanks, Gary, for facilitating.